Yo guys, welcome back, and welcome to another Duet Night Abyss pre-launch video. Today we are talking about all 18 playable characters that it's looking like we'll be having in version 1.0 on launch day on Tuesday. In doing some research, I learned of the original 22 characters from the playtest. It looks like 5 will not be available, so the reason we're at 18 is because of the new character that they just announced yesterday. We can only assume they are being held for post-launch updates. As far of the 5, it looks like we will not be seeing Sibylle, Fushu, Hilda, Kezu, and Yuming. Now, how did I come to this conclusion? Well, besides seeing nothing about them in the most recent live stream, if we also make our way to the Duet Night Abyss site, under the characters section, we can also see they are nowhere to be found. Other examples would be no posts on X or YouTube Shorts about any of them recently either. So we will just look forward to them coming in future updates. The point of this video is to give a decent breakdown of each character with gameplay that was provided by Mello on YouTube. His link to the video is in the description. And we are using probably the best database site around for Duet Night Abyss right now. That's going to be Boarhat GG. Link to that will also be in the description. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. So before we get into a deep dive of each character, let's check out who they do have on the site, just to confirm what I said. And we have Berenica, an outsider here. Then we're going to have Sibylle, Lynn, Rhythm, Daphne, Randy, and Hellfire. Then we have Truffle and Filbert with Lisbell, Rebecca, and Tabethe, Psyche, Fina, Phantasio, Lady Nifle, Margie, and Yale Oliver. So we're going to start with Psyche, and I think she's going to end up being one of the most popular characters, one of the most used characters, probably one of their most purchased characters, especially when it comes to skins. She just looks absolutely gorgeous. She flies. If you play First Descendant, there's been a lot of comparison to her with Serena. If you play Warframe, then there's been a lot of comparison to Titania, who are very popular characters in both those games. She's going to be a DPS weapon damage. Her element is going to be a Nemo, and her weapon proficiency is going to be with polearm and assault rifle. Now, her main skill is going to be a damage skill. This is going to create a phantasm that flashes forward. This skill could be used at any time without interrupting her current action. In flamboyant state, the skill is replaced with photo axis. So that's probably going to be the really important one. And photon axis charges forward in the air, releases 16 ethereal powders. These powders automatically lock onto an enemy, dealing a Nemo damage and inflicting 1 stack of powder stigma, up to 12 stacks. And powdered stigma, when a target is inflicted with powdered stigma, takes crit damage from Psyche. 1 stack of powdered stigma is consumed to deal a Nemo damage to the target. And I'm going to assume off the map with her, we're going to want to be in her ultimate as much as possible. And then we'll go to her ultimate, which is a buff. This is going to enter the flamboyant state. This is going to give her the ability to fly. When she's in the flamboyant state, Psyche can only use skills and shoot. Flamboyant state continuously consumes sanity, and when sanity drops to 0, the skill ends. So a big thing with her is going to building into our sanity gain, sanity cost, and all that stuff to keep her in the air. And then her passive is Ember Light. When dealing crit damage, Psyche gains one of the following buffs at random: attack boost, skill boost. This increases Psyche's damage for each buff she gains up to 12 buffs. Next up, we have Rebecca. She's going to be a DPS, summon, and skill damage. She's going to be a hydro element, and her weapon proficiency is polearm and grenade launcher. Her main skill is going to be a summon skill. This is going to summon something for you. At a maximum of 3 can exist at the same time. This is going to inherit Rebecca's stats, 100% of them, continuously dealing hydro damage to nearby enemies. Then her ultimate is a damaging ultimate, Lada Love Do. This deals hydro damage to nearby enemies. The damage is increased based on the number of poison love stacks inflicted on enemies. And then we have her passive, True Love Trial. When dealing damage with a melee weapon or her first ability, inflict 1 stack of poison love on the target, up to 6 stacks. Poison love is going to deal hydro damage once every 2 seconds. When a defeated enemy inflicted with poison love dies, they transfer the poison love to nearby enemies. Now we have Berenica, the poster child for Duet Night Abyss. She's going to be a DPS, weapon damage. Her element attack is going to be Umbro, and her weapon proficiency is going to be with sword and dual pistols. Moving on to her skills. Her main skill is a damage skill. It's going to be Faint Light. Berenica dashes forward, dealing AoE damage 4 times along the way. And then her ultimate, which is a buff, which is going to switch her melee weapon to Ymir, which is basically her weapon. And this is going to cast a sword wave. This is basically going to put you in the air, and you're going to be able to cast all these waves of swords forward. She is going to be a character everybody gets early on, and probably a really good character in my opinion, especially for starting out. And then her passive is going to be recuperation. When dealing damage with faint light or sword, there's a chance to restore sanity for Berenica. So this is going to keep her in her ultimate, and then also building into sanity with mods is also going to do the same thing. Now we have Lynn, our sharpshooter. She's a DPS weapon damage. She's pyro, and her weapon proficiency is going to be greatsword and dual pistols. She looks really cool in my opinion. Greatsword and dual pistols. I mean, how could you not be cool? She's basically though just like a sharpshooter. Her skill is going to be a damage skill. It's going to be Deadly Blossom. This deals pyro damage to enemies in front and inflicts laceration. Laceration when under the influence of laceration. Every time the enemy takes ranged weapon damage, the lacerated rune is increased by 1. So basically this is a dot, a damage over time, maybe similar to like a bleed or a burn. Then her ultimate is a buff. It's going to be Gunpowder Revelry. Switches the ranged weapon to Hansel and Gretel. This is going to be her, basically like her ultimate weapon, right? Specifically for her. In this state, Lynn can shoot and use skills, but cannot move. So she kind of looks crazy all over the place like that. And then her passive is Tactical Rapid Fire. When not shooting, Lynn gains a stack of preload per second up to 6 stacks. When shooting, this consumes all the stacks. They gain Suppressing Fire for a period of time. And then Suppressing Fire increases the damage based on the number of consumed preload stacks. You cannot gain preload stacks during Suppressive Fire. And now we have Randy. What a name. But to me, Randy looks really cool. He's going to be support, defense, and shield. His element is going to be electro, and then his weapon proficiency is sword and pistol. Overall, I just think his skills look really fucking cool. And electric, I'm always a fan of electric damage in most games. So he's looking really cool. His main skill is going to be a defensive skill. It's going to deploy a barrier in front of Randy, deals electro damage. The barrier consumes sanity over time. This is basically where you see him sitting in the chair in the gameplay. Pretty crazy. And then his ultimate is going to be Special Gift. This throws a bespoke shield forward, causing impact 1 time. When it halts, triggers impact once every 3 seconds. It's like an AoE tick damage type of deal here. And Cavalier Composure. When Randy successfully grants a Ultra Shield to a teammate, this applies 1 stack that increases their defense based on Randy's defense to them up to 10 stacks. So we're going to be wanting to build into defensive damage here, as you can see with him. I'm sorry, not defensive damage. We're going to be wanting to build into defense to up our damage, because as you can see here, that is applied here. And then also for his passive is working off of his defense. So we are going to want to go into defense for Randy. Now we have Sibylle. Step on me, Dommy Mommy. You'll see why in the footage. She basically steps on her enemies. Pretty cool. Her feature is DPS, max HP, and skill damage. She is electro damage. And then her weapon proficiency is whip, sword, and pistol. Her main skill is a damage skill, Divine Conqueror. This deals electro damage to enemies within range, in front, and creates a field of Legion's Punishment at the location. Legion's Punishment, after a 1.5 second delay, consumes a certain amount of Might of Thunder every 0.4 seconds to deal electro damage to one random enemy, lasting up to 10 seconds. When this drops to 0, the Legion's Punishment dissipates. That is the Step on Me, Mommy skill. Then her ultimate is a summon skill, Stormcaller. This is going to summon a Chaotic Thunder Orb. At a maximum of 1 can exist at a time. Consumes Might of Thunder to summon an enhanced Chaotic Thunder Orb. Chaotic Thunder Orb inherits a certain amount of percentage of Sibylle's HP with 0 defense and is considered an enemy unit. Once summoned, Chaotic Thunder Orb calls forth Devastating Storm once every 3 seconds and links to furthest enemies within range. So as you can see, just like with Randy, how we want to work on defense, with Sibylle, we're going to want to focus on her HP because that is going to build into her skill damage. And then her passive is Might of Thunder. When the damage dealt triggers bonus effect, Sibylle gains certain points of Might of Thunder, up to 300 points. Divine Conqueror and Stormcaller can be empowered by consuming Might of Thunder points. Now we have Tabethe, our cute little demon child. She's pretty cool, I think. Her feature is support, control, and weapon damage. She's going to be hydro attack, which probably looks weird because I would assume pyro looking at her. But when you look at her skills, you can understand why it's hydro attack. Has a lot to do with tentacles. And then her weapon proficiency is going to be sword and bow. As far as her skills, her main skill is a buff. This is Tabethe's specialty. This is going to command a tentacle to attack one time and increases the damage dealt from this attack. This grants her and her teammates the ability to deal additional hydro damage. Now, her ultimate is a summon, which is going to summon a bunch of tentacles around her. This is going to inherit 100% of her stats, continuously dealing hydro damage to nearby enemies, and capturing up to 2 enemies to immobilize them. And then her passive, Have Tricks Will Travel, is going to deal crit damage using a ranged weapon, has a chance to summon 1 tentacle near the target, which can only be triggered once per second. So pretty good, a nice little buff to her gun abilities, I would say. And you can have a maximum of 18 tentacles on the field at the same time. Now we have Daphne. She's going to be our support, controller, and healer. Her element is a Nemo, and her weapon proficiency is whip sword and assault rifle. Her first skill is a healing skill, Emerald Infusion. She enters the state during which a chemical mist permeates the area around her, continuously healing Daphne and her teammates, and decreasing the movement speed of enemies in the mist. She gains 2 Azoth projectiles per second. We'll get into what that is in just a minute. Repulsion Synthesis is going to be her ultimate buff. Heals and applies Purification Formula to Daphne and the nearby teammates. Temporarily immobilizes and inflicts 1 stack of Decay Formula on enemies around up to 3 stacks. She gains these projectiles equal to the number of affected teammates and enemies up to 12. Purification Formula increases attack. Decay Formula decreases attack and deals periodic Anemo damage to affected targets once every 2 seconds. Now for her passive, Azoth Projectile, this increases Daphne's ranged weapon trigger probability. When she possesses these projectiles, she can hold up to 30, and each ranged weapon attack consumes 1 of the projectiles. Now we have Phantasio. He's going to be a DPS skill damage. He looks like a fucking badass. I don't even really play male characters in video games, I'm not going to lie, but I will be playing this guy. He's going to be an Umbro element, and then his weapon proficiency is Greatsword and Shotgun. What a fucking badass. His main skill is a damage skill. This is going to deal Umbro damage to enemies in front and inflict 5 stacks of Adago on them, up to 10 stacks. The remaining time of the effect is refreshed with each new stack. When in Bestial Fury state, this skill is replaced with Aria. Aria dashes forward, dealing Umbro damage to enemies along the path, and gains Presto. Presto increases skill range and grants immunity to hit stun. So his ultimate is going to be a buff, and we're probably going to want to be in this as much as possible. This turns him into an absolute beast. His melee attack is replaced with these Furious Claws. It does multiple hit attacks that gain damage as they land. Then we have Duo, which grants a certain amount of immersion. This effect can only be triggered once every 0.1 seconds. Just wild looking character. And then his passive is on stage when in his ultimate increases his attack based on his max sanity. So we're already going to build into max sanity to stay in his ultimate, and this is going to give us even more damage off of building into that. So just works really well. I think he's going to be one of the top characters in the game. Then we have Lady MILF. That's what I'm going to call her. Her feature is DPS and skill damage. She does Lumino for her element, and her weapon proficiency is katana and pistol. So cool. What a combo. I'd love to have a katana and a pistol. Now, her main skill is a damage skill. It's going to be called Solar Eclipse, but there's 2 parts to this. So there's the Solar Eclipse part that's going to deal Lumino damage, and then there's the Luna Hunt part, which is going to deal Umbro damage. Now, for her ultimate, which is a buff, this is Misty Sea Requiem. This enters a funeral rite state. If her skill range exceeds 100%, this converts the excess portion into skill damage. So for her, we're going to want to be building into as much range as we could possibly get, so we can then convert that into our skill damage. And for her passive, Interwoven Cries, based on her ranged weapon trigger probability, there is a chance to summon 1 additional Lunar Hunt when summoning Solar Eclipse at the same location, and vice versa. Then we have Truffle and Filbert, our little pig riding girl. Probably going to be a real big fan favorite, I imagine. Support, max HP, and heal. Anemo for the element, and then her weapon proficiency is polearm and bow. Her main skill is a damage skill. It's called Throtter's Trot Trot. This commands Filbert to charge forward, dealing a Nemo damage to enemies in the path. Upon hitting any obstacles, deals AoE and Nemo damage at the endpoint. When using this skill, heals Truffle and Filbert and her nearby teammates and increases their damage. When Truffle rides on Filbert, this skill is replaced with Thotter's Charge. This long press for sustained charge, continuously consuming sanity and dealing a Nemo damage to enemies in the path. Now her ultimate is going to be a buff, and this is what's going to put Truffle on Filbert. So she can continuously stay on them. And Truffle rides on Filbert and gains 100 points of passion for work and a movement speed boost, dealing a Nemo damage to enemies in the path when moving. When riding Filbert, Truffle is unable to use any weapon, but command Filbert to attack. When this skill is used again, Truffle dismounts, of course. And then passion for work, loses 5 points per second and restores 1 when dealing damage upon knocking to a target. During Trotter's charge, passion for work will not lose. When all passion for work points drop to 0, Truffle dismounts and unleashes Trotter's Trot once. Then our passive is going to be Chop. Commissaries gain 1 stack of heavyweight for every second Truffle keeps moving, up to 10 stacks. And heavyweight is going to increase damage dealt and decreases damage taken. Just overall, I think a pretty cool kit. And we're going to want to build into HP with her for the added damage bonus. Next, we have Outsider. His feature is DPS and weapon damage. He is a Nemo element, and his weapon proficiency is going to be dual blades, dual pistols. His main skill is a buff, Stealthy Prowl. This is going to put him in stealth and exit Relentless Hunt state. Generate 2 Fang Spikes to attack nearby enemies when exiting stealth state or using Stealthy Prowl, again in the stealth state. When in stealth, Outsider cannot be detected by enemies, and taking damage will not exit stealth. Launching attack or using Predator's Pounce will exit stealth. So Predator's Pounce is going to be his ultimate and is a buff. This is going to retract all Fang Spikes and enter Relentless Hunt state. For each Fang Spike retracted, Outsider loses certain HP, which is converted into an equivalent of Ultra Shield and additionally extends duration of Relentless Hunt state. When losing HP due to this effect, the minimum HP cannot go below 0. When in Relentless Hunt state, Outsider is immune to hit stun and it gains a weapon attack speed boost and malice boost. Outsider cannot receive healing in this state, and any healing received is converted to an equivalent amount of Ultra Shield. Then we have his passive, Fang for Fang. When taking damage, Outsider generates 1 Fang Spike to attack the damage dealer. This effect can only be triggered once per second. And now we have Rhythm, which is a DPS skill damage, electro, and weapon proficiency, katana, and assault rifle. Rhythm is going to have her main skill be a damage skill, which is Volt Rush. She's going to leap forward, dealing electro damage to enemies along the path. When the electric energy point is no less than 30, consume 30 points to increase the leap speed and Volt Rush damage, and grants an effect that increases damage dealt by Rhythm. Her ultimate is going to be a buff. It's Electro Vortex. This deals electro damage to enemies within range and enters Electro Surge state, during which continuously consumes sanity. Electro Surge increases movement speed for Rhythm and her nearby teammates, deals electro damage to 1 random enemy within range per second, and alternatively inflicts positive charge and negative charge on them, prioritizing enemies without electric charge. So basically what this does, it's going to take 2 enemies and pull them into each other, and then at the midpoint, do a bunch of damage for her. Then her passive, Tactical Preservation. When consuming sanity, converts a percentage of consumed sanity into electric energy. The upper limit of electric energy is equal to max sanity. So we're going to want to be building into a ton of sanity for her. Then we have Hellfire, a DPS, max HP, skill damage. She's basically a tank. Let's just get out of the way right now. She's pretty much a tank. Her element is Pyro, and her weapon proficiency is Greatsword Grenade Launcher. Her main skill is going to be a buff. This is Enrage Inferno. She's going to enter a Retribution state. This deals pyro damage to enemies once every 2 seconds. If Hellfire takes damage during Retribution, this extends the state and deals Puncture Retribution, pyro damage to nearby enemies once every 2 seconds. So a dot. And then her ultimate is a damaging ability. It's going to be Cage of Despair. This deals pyro damage to surrounding enemies and taunts them. Then her passive, Retributive Resolve, increases max HP and continuously restores HP. And then as you can see here, her damage is also affected by her max HP. So we're going to be wanting to build into as much as HP as we can for Hellfire. Up next, we have Margie. She's going to be a DPS skill damage. Her element is going to be Pyro, and her weapon proficiency is going to be Polearm and Shotgun. Her main skill is a damage skill, Margie's Treasure Shovel. This attacks enemies within range in front, dealing pyro damage and stunning them. When using the skill by long pressing, Margie makes a continuous attack. Then we have her ultimate, which is going to be Margie's Combustible Bin. Cast 3 Margie's Combustible Bins forward, then immediately explode upon hitting any target or obstacle, dealing AoE pyro damage and consuming a certain stacks of Jackpot. When consuming 3 stacks of Jackpot, this increases the explosion range and damage. When consuming 6 stacks of Jackpot, creates a zealous zone after the explosion, dealing pyro damage once every 2 seconds to enemies within the zone. When consuming 9 stacks of Jackpot, deals additional AoE pyro damage 2 times after the explosion. Then her passive is going to be Margie's Recycling Stack. When Margie or her nearby teammates pick up any item, Margie gains 1 stack of Jackpot that persists, which increases Margie's skill damage up to 20 stacks. Pretty cool interaction between her and her teammates with that, I'd say. Then we have Yale and Oliver, a DPS skill damage, another pyro attack, and then the weapon proficiency is going to be sword and shotgun. Now, the main skill is going to be a damage skill here. It's called Top Popper. This is going to drop a bomb named Top Popper, assuming the form of either Top Popper, Yale's make, or Top Popper, Oliver's make. Upon landing, the bomb explodes after 2 seconds, dealing pyro damage to enemies within a cross-shaped area, detonating any other Top Poppers within range. A maximum of 10 can exist at the same time. So Yale's make, when dealing damage, causes greater stance reduction to the targets. The greater the difference between Yale and Oliver's skill range and skill damage provided by equipped demon wedges, the higher the chance of deploying Top Popper Yale's make. If the difference is no less than 50%, it's guaranteed to be Top Popper Yale's make. So you can control which ones you do have here due to your skill range and your skill damage for Yale's make. And then Oliver's make is going to deal higher damage. The greater the difference between Yale and Oliver's skill damage and skill range provided by equipped demon wedges, the higher the chance of deploying Oliver's make is. If the difference is no less than 50%, it's guaranteed to be Top Popper's Oliver's make. Just a whole load of words right there. So you are going to be able to decide which one you're using for Yale and Oliver. And we'll get deeper into that once we get into some builds for these characters. With the ultimate damage, you're going to have Nightmare's Grasp. This generates Nightmare Lab around Yale and Oliver. Using the skill again, can close Nightmare Lab in advance. Nightmare Lab, when in the area of Nightmare Lab, the movement speed of enemies within range is decreased. The detonation timer of Top Poppers on the ground are paused, and they won't be detonated by other Top Poppers. This is going to give you the ability to use your Top Popper over and over and over and over, and then eventually detonate all of them. Now, the passive is going to be the Rules of Bomb. When a Top Popper is deployed, if it is no less than 2 meters above the ground, it deals pyro damage to nearby enemies upon landing. And then we will cover Fina. Although not on release, she will be out shortly after the game launches. I think it's a week or two. She's going to be a support weapon damage. She is Lumino Element, and then a sword and assault rifle. Her main skill is a damage skill on a warm afternoon. This deals Lumino damage to enemies within range and decreases their movement speed. When using this skill in the Boisterous Tea Party, the damage is increased. The damage range is expanded to the same range of Boisterous Tea Party. Now, for her ultimate, this is going to be a buff. It's going to be Let the Tea Party Begin. This is where you're going to get your Boisterous Tea Party field in front of her. Boisterous Tea Party continuously consumes sanity and ends when sanity drops to 0. Of course, during Boisterous Tea Party, when using the skill again, we'll switch the field effects in order of the Tea Party guest: Nightingale, Hound, Unicorn, Butterfly. Using the skill again outside of the range, we'll relocate it to her current location. Boisterous Tea Party generates an elemental field that corresponds to the element type of the Tea Party guest, with Nightingale, Hydro, Hound, Pyro, Unicorn, Electro, Butterfly, and Nemo. When Boisterous Tea Party starts, grants Fina and all her nearby teammates the ability to deal additional elemental damage based on the elemental type of field. In addition, the Boisterous Tea Party field deals corresponding elemental damage to enemies within range for every 2 seconds. So she's able to pretty much use almost every element in the game, which is pretty cool. And then her passive, Bad Sorcerers Hate Sunlight. Fina gains the ability to deal additional Lumino damage throughout the battle. When using on her warm afternoon, gains 3 stacks of Tail Weaver's Quill. During Boisterous Tea Party, gains 1 stack of Tail Weaver per second, up to 38 stacks, and this is going to make her deal additional Lumino damage. And last, we have Lisbell, our newly announced character, who looks really, really cool. Always great to see a little tiny little character like that with a big old sword. Her features should be DPS with weapon damage. Looks like they're saying they think she's going to be Lumino attack for her element, and then weapon proficiency, great sword and shotgun. But we don't know anything about her skills yet. I really do look forward to playing her. She looks really, really cool. And that covers everything for this Duet Night Abyss character guide for launch. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you guys are going to be playing this at launch as well. I will be, and I'm looking forward to making a ton of content for it. Like and subscribe is appreciated. Thanks, guys. Peace.